All right, let's dive in. Today, we're heading to Fremont, California, back in 2007, to take a look at the unsolved murder of Aaron. They called him Anton, bro.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Yeah, it's a sad case. And we're going to be looking at some interview clips from the Anatomy of Murder podcast,
Okay.
where Anton's mother, Deborah Flores, and the cold case detective, Detective Jacob Blass, talk about the case.
Gotcha.
And one of the things that I found interesting was uh, Deborah really wanted to make sure the detective saw her son as a person,
Hmm.
not just a case file. So she made them watch hours of Anton's home videos.
Wow. That's really something. What was she hoping to get across? I mean, what did she want them to see?
Well, it sounds like she was trying to show them what a special young man he was.
Mm.
She described Anton as a quiet, old soul
Oh, interesting.
who preferred the company of adults,
Hmm.
which kind of makes sense, right, when you hear about his interests?
Like what?
Well, he loved vintage stuff, like
Mhm.
clothes, music, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the old soul vibe.
Exactly. But here's the thing. He was also really into cars.
Really?
Yeah, he actually wanted to be a mechanic. And he was actually about to attend Job Corps in Utah to learn, to become a mechanic.
Wow, that's quite a contrast. An old soul who loves cars. I wonder what kind of mechanic he would have been. Would he have worked on like classic
I
cars?
know, it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
But sadly, he never got the chance
Yeah.
because on April 29th, 2007, it was a Sunday evening, around 8:53 p.m.,
Okay.
Anton was waiting at a busy intersection near his apartment for a friend to pick him up,
So he was just hanging out waiting for his friend.
pretty much. And out of nowhere, he gets shot.
Oh, wow. No warning.
Nope, no robbery, no indication of any enemies, no clear motive.
That's chilling. Just random violence.
It seems that way.
Oh.
And the initial investigation was, well, let's just say it was a bit messy.
Really? How so?
Well, the first 911 call that came in didn't even report a shooting. They thought he was just unconscious.
Yeah.
So that probably delayed getting him the medical help he needed.
Right. Those first few minutes can be so critical.
Absolutely. And on top of that, it sounds like the police were dealing with what Detective Blass called um, pockets of impunity.
Pockets of impunity. I'm not sure I've heard that term before. What does that mean?
Basically, it's when there's a lack of cooperation from the community.
Okay.
Maybe because they're scared, don't trust the police, or just don't care.
I see.
So you might have people who know something, but they're too afraid to say anything.
Right. They don't want to get involved.
Exactly. And one of the things that came up in the podcast was a possible gang connection.
Interesting.
So Fremont back then had these two rival gangs, the Norteños and the Serenos.
Okay.
And there was, tension between them.
Right. A lot of cities have those kinds of rivalries.
Yeah. And the theory is that Anton, who wasn't involved in any gangs, might have just been caught in the crossfire.
It's a scary thought, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was actually another unsolved homicide just a few months earlier,
Yeah.
not too far from where Anton was killed, that the police think could be gang-related.
Oh, wow. So this was a dangerous time in Fremont.
It seems that way. And it's so sad to think that someone like Anton, who sounds like he was a really good kid, could be a victim of something like that.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that Deborah told a story about Anton as a kid.
You mean the Toys for Tots story?
Yeah, that one. Tell me about that.
Well, so picture this. It's Christmas time, and Anton's about 4 years old.
Okay.
They go to the mall, and he gets this really popular action figure.
The kind that's hard to find.
Yeah, like the hot toy that year.
Yeah.
So he's super excited. And as they're leaving the mall, they see a Marine next to a Toys for Tots donation bin.
Okay.
And little Anton asks his mom why there's an army guy in front of the toy store.
Oh, that's cute.
Right. So Deborah explains to him that some kids aren't as lucky and won't get presents for Christmas.
Oh.
And Anton, without missing a beat, decides to donate his brand new action figure. Yeah. He just drops it into the bin and says, "It's okay, Mom. I wanted to give it to a kid that doesn't have anything."
That's amazing. Even at 4 years old, he had such a big heart.
It really shows you what kind of person he was.
It does. It makes his death even more tragic.
Wow.
To think that someone so kind and giving is just gone.
I know, it's heartbreaking. And that's where Detective Blass comes in.
Okay.
He joined the cold case unit years after Anton was murdered.
Mm.
And he was determined to solve the case.
Wow, so this case really stuck with him.
It did. And here's the thing. Detective Blass actually knew Deborah from before.
Really? How's that?
He was a rookie cop on the night Anton was killed.
Wow. Imagine that, being there that night and then years later becoming the lead investigator.
I know, it's like something out of a movie. And he told Deborah that he wouldn't rest until they found Anton's killer.
That's incredible. It must be a huge driving force for him.
That seems like it. And there's a $60,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
Wow, $60,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, to all of you listening, if anything we've talked about jogs your memory, or if you have any information, no matter how small, please reach out to the Fremont Police Department.
Yeah. Even the smallest detail could be helpful. You never know.
Exactly. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk more about Anton's case.
So we're back, and we were just discussing how Detective Blass was actually there the night Anton was murdered. As a rookie cop, it's wild how things work out sometimes.
Yeah, talk about a full circle moment.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the $60,000 reward, do you think that's actually effective? I mean, it's a lot of money, but will it really convince someone to come forward?
Yeah.
Especially if they're scared of retaliation.
It's tough to say. Money talks, as they say, but I think it says a lot that such a large reward is even necessary. It kind of shows just how deep that fear runs in the community.
Yeah, you're right. We keep coming back to these pockets of impunity. It's a fascinating concept. But what exactly makes them form? Like, what are the underlying factors?
Well, imagine a place where crime's been so bad for so long that people just get used to it, Or a community that just doesn't trust the police. Maybe because of past experiences like discrimination or something.
Yeah, so they just stop cooperating. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The more crime goes unpunished, the less people trust the system.
Exactly. And that's why cases like Anton's are so hard to crack. It's not just about finding the evidence, it's about breaking through that wall of silence.
So how do you even begin to do that? I mean, how do you build that trust?
Well, it takes time and effort. It's about engaging with the community, really listening to their concerns, and showing them that you're serious about justice.
And that's where Deborah comes in, right? She's not just fighting for her son, she's also a bridge between the community and the police.
Absolutely. She understands the community in a way that the police might not, and she can connect with people on a personal level.
Yeah, it's a reminder that solving a case like this isn't just about forensics and detective work. There's a human element to it. And speaking of the human element, I keep thinking about that detail about Anton cleaning his shoes with toothbrushes.
Oh, yeah. It's such a quirky little detail, but it really says something about him, doesn't it?
Yeah, what do you think it means?
Well, it shows he was meticulous. Like he paid attention to detail, especially for a teenage boy. It's like he wanted to put his best foot forward.
Right. It makes you wonder, if he'd become a mechanic, would he have been the kind of guy who kept his tools perfectly organized?
I bet he would have. It just adds another layer to the tragedy, To think that someone who cared so much about the little things could be taken away so senselessly.
Yeah, it's tough to wrap your head around, but it also makes you appreciate the little things, right? Like, we should all try to live with that same intentionality, that same care.
I love that. It's a good reminder that life is precious and unpredictable. We never know what tomorrow might bring.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so important, if you're listening, and anything at all comes to mind about Anton's case, please call the authorities. The smallest detail could make all the difference.
And as we wrap up our deep dive, I want everyone to think about this. What small act of kindness inspired by Anton can you do today?
What can you do to spread a little bit of light in the world? Maybe that's the best way to honor Anton's memory.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone.
Wow, talking about Anton's case it's really got me thinking. It's just so sad.
It really makes you realize how one event can impact so many people, not just the family, but the whole community. And it makes you wonder about all those other families out there who are still waiting for answers, still searching for justice.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about how fear and distrust can prevent people from talking to the police. Do you think that's a factor in a lot of unsolved cases? Or is Anton's case unique in some way?
I think it happens more often than we realize. But yeah, with Anton, that possible gang connection adds a whole other level of complication. People might be afraid to talk, not just because of the person who did it, but because of the whole gang.
Right, it's like a whole network of fear.
Yeah.
But then you have Deborah, Anton's mom. She's not giving up. She's not letting fear silence her. It's incredible, really.
Yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with. It shows you what one person can do, even when it seems like there's no hope.
And it's kind of like, in a way, we're doing the same thing by talking about Anton's story. We're keeping it alive, reminding people that these cases, they're not just files in a cabinet. They're about real people.
Exactly. And you never know, maybe someone listening right now, they might have a piece of information that could break the case wide open.
That's what's so great about podcasts like Anatomy of Murder, and hopefully what we're doing here, bringing these stories to light, starting conversations. Maybe, just maybe, we can reach that one person who knows something.
Even if we don't solve the case, we're still remembering Anton, keeping his spirit alive, making sure people know that his life mattered.
I like that. And it goes back to that story about Anton giving his toy away, to Toys for Tots. Even when things are tough, there's always room for kindness, for compassion, for hope.
It's a message that everyone needs to hear. It's about the best of humanity, that we can make a difference.
So as we finish up our look at Anton's case, I want everyone to remember him, remember his kindness, remember his story. And if you have any information, please contact the authorities. You can find all the details in our show notes.
And as you go about your day, think about this. What small act of kindness can you do? What can you do to, make the world a little brighter? Maybe that's the best way to honor Anton.
Thanks for joining us today.